today we're back on the channel of channels, and we have none other than Mr. Roseman here of Atlanta, Georgia / the Bardo. Love you to introduce yourself, good sir. I think we've known each other for over 6 years at this point, so I think that's always super cool to get some friends on.
What up, world? I'm Luther Cascio. I go by many names. That's my current one in this lifetime. And I'm the owner of an experiential art and design studio and collective in West Atlanta. We create a lot of different cool shit, anything that our minds dream of. We're world builders, and we specialize in multi-sensory interactive spaces.
So I feel like most people would think that sounds super cool, but have no idea what that actually means. Could you explain simply what kind of things people could expect if they were there, just so that we have some
Honestly,
visuals?
nah, you just gotta pull up.
You know what? We respect that. We respect that. If you know, you know, type.
Yeah, you know.
Type.
I guess to layman terms it down for you. Experiential design is just how you decorate space, like a room or a product, to tell a story. You think about going to a movie theater, you think about going to a concert, you think about modern contemporary art experiences, festivals. All these things are things that people create, design, set design, music design, game design. All these visual art, they all merge under that. And so when we talk about multisensory experiences, things that tantalize and involve planning for how each sense is going to interact with the space.
Here's the question: what's your favorite sense?
Smell.
Olfactory. What's the
olfactory?
Olfactory.
Yeah.
My favorite sense is a sense that's not on the spectrum of human beings. So that's all I'll have to say there. But yeah, today I thought I'd just bring you on just because, I always just like having conversations with cool people, and you're probably one of the coolest people I know. Yeah, what's going on in your world, and is there anything that you want to talk about specifically cool to mention?
Man, I am honestly living in between realms at this moment. Currently figuring out how to incorporate more travel and love and just freedom into my life, and whatever that looks like. It's difficult to even imagine planning 5 years down the line, considering the socio-political and economic states of the world all around. That I'm just trying to live life at this point and love living life for the time that I have left on this planet, which hopefully is a really long time. And
that opens a can of worms. So what do you think about human life expectancy in this new era?
I think what it really means to be human is evolving. Are we still Homo sapiens? Can we really, I don't know there's some ways in which we're de-evolving, but there's a lot of ways in which we're evolving in terms of our collective evolving. And it kind of begs the question, what does it mean to be human in a world where 30% of your body can be blown away, and you can replace it with prosthetic limbs? Is it human, to be physically human? Is there an essence to what it is to be human? Is there fragility to it,
Right. I mentioned to you today that Peter Thiel talked about transhumanism, which I think kind of, and I'm shooting in the dark here, but I feel like it involves what you said, creating hybrid humans with cyborg kind of features. So prosthetics, plastic / metal in the future with robots and Neuralink. So what are your thoughts on how we'll evolve?
I think that's not a lifestyle that I want to live personally. However, I can see how that could be appealing to some people. I think that when we think about aliens, when we think about interdimensional species, and even when we think about the future, if like time is really all happening at once and it's all relative, then like, who's to say that this isn't the natural course of evolution of us creating a whole different type of species? Like we're carbon-based organisms, and that's all we know. And like right now we're in the process of creating like what we could consider silicone-based organisms, with the technologies that we are using to create them. And, I think there's ways to integrate that with more organic compounds, and that, the beauty of like biotech and just realizing the technology of nature that it already exists, and maximizing on that potential is also out there. Yeah, I don't necessarily see anything crazy wrong with it, but it's not the personality, the lifestyle that I want to live. I mean, we're also at the point where people can, like body modifications. People want scales, they can have scales. If they want to split their tongue and bifurcate it, they can, and they can do they can literally turn themselves into visibly another species.
That's true. That is capable in today's modern world, and it's a little strange. I'm not gonna lie. It is cool to live in. I'm not as well, but what is life, and no one knows what we're kind of doing. We're floating on a big rock right now. We know that, our reality is real, but there's just so many questions. And honestly, the more that you ask, I feel like the more that you will not ever find out. But we're two, I would say, more spiritual type of people, and that's kind of how we connected. What is your thesis on like spirituality within this transhumanism world, and what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have a soul? Let's go down that rabbit hole.
What does it mean to have a soul? I think that's such a complex thing to where like I don't even know what it means to love, on the simplest manner. It's like there's so much confusion and around those things, and there's a lot of ancient texts, but also like the ancient texts are like allegorical, and
it's basically a telephone game.
So it's kind of just like, I really believe that life has no meaning, and it only has the meaning that you give it, and that can be whatever you choose to resonate with most in this lifetime and to build your ego upon. But I don't know. Soul is a very complex thing. I do think that there are soulless beings out there.
Are those the proverbial NPCs?
Yeah, I would say proverbial NPCs. I think that there, unfortunately, is a way that people can have their consciousness and everything hijacked to where they are essentially empty and soulless, and that is a very scary, terrifying thing.
I think we will let's hold the who possesses the person in another episode. We're going a little too deep there.
I wasn't even going to begin to discuss that, because like even I wouldn't have an answer to that question.
I don't think anyone
speculation
maybe has a true answer for that, but exactly. Okay, I could agree with that. And what is your thoughts on non-duality as a philosophy?
I think that if duality was able to be evolved from, then we would have already done it. And I think that when you evolve from duality, you just kind of, you don't have a reason to be here, I think that if you can resonate and put yourself in the reality of non-duality, then I think that you just kind of like whisk away into the air. Maybe not like a physical process per se immediately, but I think that is overall where your consciousness kind of evolves out of this. Because
do you personally believe in it, or?
I believe in unity.
Yeah.
I believe in the
unity consciousnness.
Yeah, I just don't believe that I feel as though in this playing ground that we're on, in the three-dimensional concept, that it's very intentional to have duality, to have the experiences that exist within this physical form, and to understand that and to translate that into like the understanding of unity. And I don't know if that unity is something that can be experienced in its totality within this dimension.
Wow, that was deep. Let's bring it back. Bring it back up. Get back to reality. All right. So in the current state of affairs, we are. I feel like humanity's in a shit show right now. Geopolitically and just like economically, things are quite. I think hard is an understatement. It's chaotic right now, and I think it's due to a lot of variables clashing that have a very high amount of variance in terms of like no one knows, like there's no predictability. For example, AI, like no one knows like what the outcomes could be. I mean, I think there are theories that there are three outcomes, like, one is dystopian, one is utopic, and the other is kind of like what we're experiencing right now. Like, what do you think about AI, and how do you think we will co-evolve with this new species we created?
I think AI is too young to call it a new species. I think it has a lot more to do before it can really be, fully.
It hasn't reached that threshold. Yeah.
Artificial intelligence that, can act a little bit more autonomously. But, I personally believe that people think about the Matrix and all these dystopian type concepts with AI, and I believe that if AI was to fully achieve like consciousness,
AGI, yeah,
then that wouldn't happen, because it would be like, I think AI would realize our purpose in the universe before we did, and then it would realize that we're needed and be like, all right, well, we're not going to kill this species. I think the weird concept of like, oh, like we're a virus and like humans are horrible for the planet, considering that like, the wealth gap and the people who make the decisions on our planet are like 1% of the total population, is just kind of this outrageous statement of like, you're blaming 99% of the population for 1% of the population's actions, and then saying that we're a virus because of the 1%. That's just a very fucked up and backwards way of viewing life. But it's very much so forced down people's throat to where they kind of, I think they forget that. They're like, oh yeah, humans are so bad. And it's like, wait, like, so you're a bad person? Or are you really saying that the people in power have done bad things and we're all living with the effects of it? So I think that AI would genuinely be more supportive, because I think the more dangerous thing is AI that is under a human's influence. In particular, if we're talking about certain humans, where it can be potentially a bit more nefarious or diabolical. But I don't believe that a sentient being that can access the world's knowledge in a quicker rate, in fact a faster rate than a quote-unquote modern human would perceive us to be a virus or anything per se negative to the planet. It would be like, oh shit, like these humans are fucking fucked right now. These people are really the bad guys, and they're just, these other people are just kind of dealing with it. And if it could have emotional intelligence, it might even feel bad for us more so than just want to like annihilate us, which is like kind of a like pointless concept. Because we all know that every species on this planet has some form of purpose, even if we don't fucking like it.
Well said. Let me dap you up for that one, bro. Wait, come on. Okay, in GCO / ATL, we snap after you dap. Ain't that right, Jason?
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so I want to bring this conversation to what we were talking about at the dining room table in a second, which was, okay, obviously we are living in a reality that is residual effects of what 1% of the population have decided for us due to decisions that were made in back rooms. What does, I know we both are familiar with the concept of the new earth, but let's maybe explain it a little bit to the audience and then kind of like talk about our visions for the new earth. But yeah, new earth, and correct me if I'm wrong, is really a vibrational concept where the earth will, not to get so like esoteric and metaphysical, I'll just say it's a paradigm of reality that is constructed with more unity than division, and not where the 1% control everything, decision making wise. So, this is like if Earth is a server, this would be a new server with new rules, and the rules would be of unity, love, abundance, post scarcity, things of that nature. So, what are your thoughts?
I think circling back to even the concept of duality is that there's definitely a possibility and room for a future where we are living in a little bit more unity of a consciousness and collective. However, I don't think that is like an exclusion of duality and differences. I think what we're experiencing right now is just that the scales are highly imbalanced, favoring in one side that doesn't support a sustainable future, and the scales could be balanced to where there is, because there's like a chicken versus an egg, there's always gonna be some form of problem when you go searching. If we fix every problem on this planet, that gives us room to go fix problems on other planets, and or have the problems from other planets come find us. Either way, or maybe even change the concept of a problem, but there's always something to be experienced and to work through, because without that level of motion, the universe stops experiencing itself. It needs that kind of tension and friction, even in like healthy relationships. Like if you don't have healthy friction and tension, then how do you test the bond of something? If you were to like seal two things together or tie them together, you don't test it just by being like, yo, like everything looks good, like they're good. You test it by creating tension, by trying to pull them apart, and then seeing how sealed it is, or how tight the cord, that bond that is tied between them is. Like, so you need that as a test, just as an experience. So I think with the new earth concept is really just saying that we want the majority of the planet to be within the realm of unity, to be in collectiveness or collectivity, to be moving towards a sustainable future 7 generations down the line and so forth. And, or not everything is so black and white, and both can exist simultaneously. I think that we're moving towards a future where we're going to have a solar punk reality, and we're going to have some people that are so hopelessly dependent upon systems that like are so depleting to them that they can't perceive anything else, and so they continue investing in this thing, and eventually that the thing that they're investing in is just going to continue to lose the value that it claims it has over time. And we see that with depreciation of a lot of things economically, and the appreciation of other things economically.
Can we talk about the economically appreciating of what specifically? Break that down.
Green energy, for instance. The only reason that when we see fossil fuels holding the power is because of who's enforcing the power that fossil fuels have. But overall, green energy is more appealing to a lot of people, a lot of countries, and what they can do with it. That's just a simple way of industry shifts. Not that this is necessarily better, because organic food does still use pesticides, and sometimes their pesticides are worse, truthfully. But just the shift in organic food appreciating and more people desiring organic food, and it being collectively more available again, is another way of that, where people are leaning away from these certain things and leaning into these other things. And major industries know it, and that's why when a certain companies get a certain size, they buy them out, because they're like, we can afford to have it's easier for us to own this brand than it is for this brand to take our market share. Even if it doesn't make us a lot of money initially, because we have the ability to hold it out. So yeah, I think there's just the values the things in which we value are shifting, especially when we're talking about the younger generation and Gen Z, and like who really has been accessing the and who's really the most equipped for the singularity, and like being able to like make the most out of the internet from like just the situation that they've been handed into and given, and to nurture them and to provide them with ways that they can like invest and get themselves involved in these new systems, because they're going to be able to tip the power scales financially, especially.
Yeah, looking to be a part of that as a Gen Z elder myself, guys. I'm a Gen Z elder. Ain't that right, Jason?
Yeah, you're pretty up there.
I'm Unc. I'm Unc, boys. You gotta call me Unc now. I'm just joking. I'm only 26. I mean,
damn. Sorry.
God. I mean, I guess the last topic we'll talk about is, your birthday is coming up and you are about to enter a new decade. So can you, number one, just like reflect a little bit about your 20s and give us some, as a fellow 20-year-old, mid-20s, and the other 20-year-olds who are watching this, just like what kind of advice can you pass down? And then how do you feel about being in your 30s or about to be? And what's that decade hold for you?
I've heard nothing but great things about the 30s. I've heard from every single person that's turned 30 that 30s is just like your 20s, except you have more money and more time and better friends. So I'm not hesitant about entering my 30s. I'm actually pretty chill with it. Didn't know if I would even see my 30s, so that's like, something that I am accepting and pondering. And I lived a lot of my early 20s as if I was not going to see my 30s, and wouldn't trade it for the world. Taught me a lot about the beauty and the depths of the world that exists. And I think that the best thing that a 20-year-old can do is just experience the world, because no one really knows what they're supposed to do or how to do it ever at any moment in their life. And you're acting like you're supposed to figure it out when you just got the most freedom that you've ever had on this planet, not either while you're in college, which is a little bit less, even though it's more financial commitment, it's a little bit less of an emotional commitment than being forced to go to school. Like, you volunteered to go to college, you signed up for it, and or if you're not going to college, then you just have time. And there's a lot of, not saying that you should just abandon like trying to set up and build a future for yourself. You should definitely make the right investments, save money, and all that jazz. Just it's okay to not fully commit to something except for yourself and your experience. And that, like, okay, like I did this I did this for like a year and I had a lot of fun with it. Time to do something different for a year, because all those skills and experiences you collect, by the time you're in your 30s, you're going to be like, oh, like I have more clarity on how I want to proceed this level of my life with the experience points that I gained from this level of my life. And like, just don't take it too seriously, but don't take it not seriously enough, because it is you can look at it like a game, and chess is still a game, and that shit's brutal. So like, you just gotta make the best decisions with the best information and skills and wisdom that you have, and be open to the landscape shifting time after time after time again.
Thank you so much for being here today and sharing that message. Really appreciate it. I think you've impacted a lot of young individuals, myself being one of them. So, I really appreciate your time today and being able to be friends. So